All right, and we're back with another Mary Truth Talks. I am your host, Marianne, and this is the MTT show. Before we begin, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and X, Mary, Mary underscore truths, Truths, and follow the MBE Wellness brand. I will be talking more about that at the end of the show, but if you believe in mind body elevation, you believe in fitness and in health and overall wellness, follow us on our pursuit to elevate our life with MBE Elevate. All right, so today was the Charlie Kirk Memorial, as you probably all know. It was the most emotional experience ever. I didn't know this person. I'm sure none of you who are watching me knew him personally, but yeah, we feel like we did. When I found out about it, I immediately just kind of got weak at the knees, and I just started pouring on the chest of my partner and fiance. I felt like I lost somebody I knew, and I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way. Seeing Erica say that she forgives the assassin was the most profound thing I have ever experienced. I don't know what more do we need to know about Christianity than that right there? That she was able to forgive the man who murdered her husband. That, if that doesn't convert people, I don't know what will, to be honest with you. But I will be talking about some updates on the Charlie Kirk case. I want to talk about why people are lying about Charlie Kirk. The polls that came out recently about how leftists are accepting violence, and the Charlie Kirk resolution and what happened after that. Let's get on with it. It's a very emotional time. Bear with me. I will do my best to not get emotional, but I can't promise you anything. Let's take a look.
This just in, our first look at Charlie Kirk's accused killer since his arrest. Tyler Robinson appears in Utah court via Zoom from jail.
Roommate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out.
And just wait until you see the text messages that we now have that Robinson allegedly sent his lover roommate after the shooting, and what he allegedly told that roommate to do that led to even more charges against this accused killer, a killer who could be put to death if he's found guilty of the charges he now faces. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. All right, let's get to the updates that we have in the case of Tyler Robinson, who is now charged with killing Charlie Kirk, the conservative influencer. And these text messages that we now have, I just read through them, they will be damning pieces of evidence in Tyler Robinson's case. I mean, if this ever even goes to trial. Now, take a look here. Here's Robinson appearing in Utah County, Utah court just a short time ago, appearing via video call from jail. He's now being held without bond. Now, we also now know the charges that Robinson is facing. 7 counts in all, and they could mean that he will be put to death if he's found guilty in a jury trial. Prosecutors in Utah County announced them today for the first time at a news conference.
Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital offense for intentionally or knowingly causing the death of Charlie Kirk under circumstances that created a great risk of death to others. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony. The state is further alleging aggravating factors on counts 1 and 2 because the defendant is believed to have targeted Charlie Kirk based on Charlie Kirk's political expression and did so knowing that children were present and would witness the homicide. The state is also charging defendant with count 3, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for moving and concealing the rifle used in the shooting. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for disposing the clothing he wore during the shooting. Count 5, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to delete his incriminating texts. Count 6, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to stay silent if police questioned him. And count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor, for committing homicide knowing that children were present and may have seen or heard the murder and did so based on Charlie Kirk's political expression.
Charlie Kirk, of course, was a political figure. Thousands of people came to hear him speak at Utah Valley University. He was one of the leading voices of young conservatives in this country. But that's not the only reason that there was major suspicion that this was an alleged political assassination. We know that Robinson, once he was arrested, had become more political in recent years, according to his family. We saw in the bullets left by the rifle that he allegedly left behind, lines like, "Hey, fascist, catch," that politics may have been the motivation for killing Charlie Kirk. But today, for the first time, prosecutors made that known, as you heard there, because of some of the text messages we're going to talk about and some of the statements that Robinson had made over the last couple of years. Now, another major update coming in was related to Robinson's roommate, and this is where we get into these text messages. Now, that roommate's been identified as a member of the transgender community, a man who's transitioning to be a woman, and they had been in a relationship with Robinson. Robinson is facing 2 counts of obstruction of justice for allegedly trying to stop that roommate from speaking to law enforcement and for allegedly telling the roommate to delete messages about the shooting. Now, I want to be clear that law enforcement has said that this roommate has been very cooperative in the investigation and they are not facing charges at this time. Prosecutors, though, just unveiled the bombshell text messages that Tyler Robinson allegedly sent that roommate. Take a listen.
Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he did provide those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange, then took place. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson, "I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you." Roommate, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" Robinson, I am. I'm sorry." Roommate, "I thought they caught the person." Robinson, "No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering." Before we get back to this episode of On the Case, I need to take a moment and stop.
Okay. All right, before we continue, subscribe, like, and share if you are also a truth seeker. I'm not here to speak truth. I'm here to seek it. I'm tired of lies. I'm tired of the propaganda. I'm tired of people believing lies. And that is one of the biggest factors why I started this show to begin with. But now it's going to be my main mission, is to seek truth and only truth, and to expose the lies that regular people spew and media as well. Before we go on to the next video, before these text messages came out, the President of the United States had already said this person was a radical leftist. The media was automatically already saying this person must be MAGA because he was raised conservative. Once more evidence started coming out that he had a trans boyfriend, the media changed their approach and they said, well, we don't really know what the motive is. We have no idea what the motive is. Because it had already been exposed this person was not MAGA, they were leftist. What gets me really, really upset is how obvious it is and people refuse to acknowledge the evidence that's right in front of their face. And they refuse not because they can't see it, because we all live in the same reality. We're all seeing the same thing. It's because you choose not to see it. And that is what bothers me. It's choosing to be ignorant of reality. And that's why we are where we are today. So from now on, I will continue to expose and call out every single person who is going to continue to live in a false reality. There's only one reality, and it's this one. There's no other one. So I am so focused now with the anger that's inside of me to continue to say what actually is happening in real life. This person is a leftist who killed Charlie Kirk for his opinions because Charlie Kirk was a conservative who held a lot of influence, and unfortunately, to those cowards on the left, that is a problem. Because they can't win in the battle of ideas, so they have to assassinate somebody. That says that we are already winning, and the battle has just begun. With that said, let's watch the next one.
Today, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer invited the CEO of Discord, as well as the CEOs of other platforms, to testify on the radicalization of online forum users. The app in focus for its connection to the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin.
Discord, the platform ownership, has been working with our lawful process, and we are obtaining materials from them on a rolling basis.
Let's bring in House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. Chairman, thank you for being with us. This is such an important topic. Obviously, the gravity of it going up enormously with Charlie Kirk's assassination. You invited these groups to testify. It's not a subpoena situation. What are you hoping to learn?
Well, we have a lot of questions. There appears to be a pattern emerging where many of the crimes committed, the high-profile crimes committed by younger people, they were all communicating on these various platforms. And we're concerned that there's some type of radicalization effort out there. We don't know that the platforms have any liability, but we are concerned, and we want to know if there are things Congress can do without limiting speech that would help us identify some of these radicalized groups that are nothing more than terror groups that have a bad agenda, an evil agenda, and something that we certainly don't want to see replicated. We don't want the criminals to continue to communicate freely on these platforms if there's a way that Congress can identify them beforehand.
Yeah, and you mentioned the importance of free speech as well. So how do you balance that? Because obviously we saw under the previous administration the censorship, the putting the thumb on the scales of telling these tech companies what to allow and what to not to allow on their platforms. So how do we balance this oversight that seems to be needed while also not trampling on free speech?
That's a great question. We hope to determine the answer to that in the hearing. This isn't a hearing where we're going to bring the CEOs and berate them on national television. We sincerely hope to find solutions to the problems. And I don't think any two members on the Oversight Committee, regardless of party, have an agreement on what can be done. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. And remember, Republicans especially, we've lived through the censorship days of the Biden regime and the deep state actors that did everything in their ability to limit conservatives from COVID all the way to the presidential election. We don't ever want to repeat that. But at the same time, we deserve to represent our constituents and see if there's anything that can be done to identify this criminal activity before it gets out of hand.
All right, that's it.
Well, a hearing where the politicians...
All right, so I don't know the full context of this because I don't have the clips because I will get copyrighted for it, so I couldn't get the clips. But so aside from the fact that they have the information on Discord of Tyler Robinson that they're giving now to the FBI, at the same time, we have Destiny, who's just demonetized because of his unhinged rants about pretty much the right. And there's actually a clip that he pretty much said, I don't know when this was, I believe it was about maybe a year or 2 years ago, where he pretty much says that there should be a genocide on the right. I recommend you guys go and check it out. There's this YouTuber called Metatron, I believe his name is, Megatron. If you can confirm really quick what the YouTuber's name is. He's Megatron. Like another Asmongold. He has like long hair. He looks like a rocker. Where he pretty much shows this clip and it exposes very clearly where the left stands when it comes to how to battle the right. They're not willing to actually have a conversation like decent human beings. They want to actually like end the ideas of the right indefinitely. That's
yeah, it's Metatron.
Okay, so yeah, I highly recommend you check it out because I can't put it. I'll get copyrighted for it. And at the same time, they're also trying to go after Hassan Piker, who I'm sure you guys all know is also another radical leftist who has also incited violence on Twitch, and Twitch has never done anything about it. So they need to start doing something about it now after Charlie Kirk was just assassinated. So now every single person, right or left, who incites direct violence towards a group of people or individual people should be investigated. That's not something that I'm saying lightly. I'm being like for real, because at the end of the day, you don't have to get violent to get your point across. If you have to get violent, that means you didn't have a point to begin with, and that's why you're choosing violence. Another thing I want to note that I saw a video about this on where was it that I saw this video? It was on TikTok, which I don't really use TikTok except to post, kind of like Instagram, but TikTok I really just use it to post. But something told me to scroll, and I scrolled once and I saw a video of a girl where she was talking about this act called, I wrote it down, the original Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which I'll talk about now. And last live, I said how we need to create a Charlie Kirk Act to pretty much stop media from committing propaganda, essentially. And this act is exactly that. So we had something like that already, and under Obama, it was revoked. So let's take a look. Formerly called the U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act, authorized the U.S. government to create and disseminate information abroad, like Voice of America broadcast, to promote U.S. interests during the Cold War. Importantly, it prohibited this material from being distributed domestically to avoid the government propagandizing its own citizens. In 2012, during the Obama administration, Congress passed the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act as part of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2013. This amendment removed the domestic dissemination ban. That change meant U.S. government-funded media, such as Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and other State Department or Broadcasting Board of Governor programs, could now be made available within the United States. So the law that was changed, the Smith-Mundt Act, that change came through the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, which loosened restrictions on government production information being accessible. So they need to bring this act back, and I think they need to become more specific on the act, because when it comes to CNN, MSNBC, ABC, all these big networks, they have a license through the FCC. And their job is to be reporting facts, not propaganda. And they stopped doing that a long time ago. They've been reporting false information for a long time. The Russia hoax, that was one of the big ones, was the Russia hoax. And then now Charlie Kirk, allowing people to lie about Charlie Kirk on their platforms, unacceptable. They should be sued for defamation. So what really bothers me, though, is that people consume this false information and then they go out of their way to attack those who are actually saying, no, this is false. This is not true. This is what's true. Charlie Kirk was not a racist. Charlie Kirk was not a misogynist. Charlie Kirk was not anti-women. Charlie Kirk, yes, he was not for abortion. Neither am I. That doesn't make him a bad person. And they're literally talking bad about this man after he was just assassinated. And it's like, do you have any sense of decency and humanity in your bone? That you have to literally defame a man after he was just assassinated for speaking his mind. That is absurd to me. That we're at this point where the networks are actually allowing this to be aired through federal airways. That is what really ticks me off, because if you're like me, where you're not getting any funding from the federal government or from anybody for that matter, we're independent. Whatever, if I want to be spewing propaganda, which I don't, but if I want to, I can, and it's perfectly fine. But they should not. And there should be a Charlie Kirk Act that literally says it is illegal for you to be using propaganda against the American citizens. And if you do, we will, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if it's suing. Well, I think suing will probably be the best thing, is suing. Make sure you're stuck in the courts until you literally go bankrupt. And it'll teach you a lesson, because something has to happen. People have to be held accountable. Something has to happen. Like, some people will say, oh, that's censorship. No, it's not. It's accountability. They are accountable to the American people to be actually saying factual information, and they're not doing that. Because if they were, I wouldn't have people on my Instagram attacking me, saying that I'm divisive and I'm choosing sides. No shit. It's good versus evil. Pick one. Are you gonna choose good or are you gonna choose evil? There's no middleman here anymore. It's over. There's no middleman. There's no neutral. When you're in war and you're in the middle, you're dead. You're in the trenches. You're dead. You pick a side. And I'm choosing good. And good means speaking up and saying and calling out lies when they are lies. When the media says, oh, well, we don't know the motive. Yes, we do. He hated Charlie Kirk. He hated the conservative movement. That's the truth. When the media says, oh, but, both sides are violent. No. The left is way more violent than the right. And what really pisses me off is how they're like, oh, but January 6th, okay, George Floyd riots. And we can give actually way more evidence of the left being violent without the poll. Don't even get me started on the poll. I'm going to get to the poll soon. But just the fact that I had some guy on Instagram literally tell me, oh, but the right was making fun of George Floyd's death. Really? Show me where we were making fun of George Floyd's death. You know what people did? They put a freaking stupid black square after that happened. I didn't fall for that stupidity. I didn't believe he got killed by a cop. He got killed because he was a drug addict hooked on fentanyl. He was a criminal. And yet, I still didn't praise his death. Nobody on the right praised his death because we don't do shit like that. And I wasn't even technically on the right at that time. But it doesn't matter. We're human beings. We're decent human beings. Whether the person was a drug addict or not, we're not going to be like, yeah, he died. No, we're not going to do that. But we are going to be like, oh, he didn't die because of the cop. He died because he was a drug addict. That's why he died. And they lied about the cop. And the cop is now facing prison time because of, again, a lie from the media. It was a lie. And I will continue to say that that was a lie. And somebody that's innocent is in prison because he happened to be a white cop who was there that day. How much you want to bet if it was a black cop, we wouldn't have this conversation. We wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. But I digress. Let's talk about this poll. So let's see here. Let's talk about this poll. Let's see. YouGov. After Charlie Kirk's killing, YouGov asked whether political violence is ever justified. Overall, most say it is never justified, but liberals are more likely than conservatives to say it can sometimes be justified. 25% of very liberal respondents said political violence can sometimes be justified. Among conservatives, that number was much lower. Also asked, is it acceptable to be happy about the death of a public figure you oppose? A significantly larger fraction of the very liberal respondents at 24% usually are always acceptable, compared to conservatives saying 4% and moderates, which is still unacceptable. There should be 0 on the conservative side. 4% is unacceptable. Let's see here. The PRRI American Values Survey, about 23% of Americans agreed with the statement, true American patriots may have to resort to violence to save our country. 23%. Breakdown by party, 33% of Republicans agreed versus 13% of Democrats. So in this case, support for political violence is higher among Republicans, which I find that very hard to believe, but sure. Let's take it their word for it. Some Republicans are more open to confrontation. I agree with that. Nearly 19% of Republicans higher among Trump favorable think that if Trump loses, he should declare the results invalid and do whatever it takes to assume office. I disagree with that, but okay. 12% of the Democrats say the same about their preferred candidate. Also in that survey, Americans were asked whether they believe Republicans versus Democrats are determined to stay in power, even if it means resorting to political violence. Nearly half said that of Republicans, about a third said that of Democrats. Blah, 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 blah. Polls showing many Americans believe members of the opposing party are downright evil. Yes, I agree with that. Which is less direct than willing to harm, but speaks to willingness to dehumanize. Well, I mean, when you are praising an assassination, I mean, what else do you call that if it's not evil or demonic? So this poll, I don't agree with it because of what happened with the Charlie Kirk resolution. So this past week, there was a Charlie Kirk resolution, one in the House and one in the Senate. So this is what it pretty much entailed. Here are some of the main points. It honors the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk, including praise for his work as a political activist. It states he was a courageous American patriot whose life was tragically and unjustly cut short in an act of political violence. While speaking at Utah Valley University on September 10th, 2025, it emphasizes that no one should be subject to violence for their political beliefs or speech. No one should be subject to violence for expressing their beliefs. Amen. It acknowledges that Kirk was a Christian and speaks of him as living out his faith with conviction, courage, and compassion. It condemns political violence. The resolution condemns the assassination as an act of political violence. The House, it was 310-58 in favor. So 310 voted yes, 58 voted no. 95 out of the 310 were Democrats. The rest were Republicans. And then the 58 that voted no were Democrats. But yet, it somehow is the same on both sides when there are people that we're paying our tax dollars to represent us who are literally saying that apparently violence is okay. Because they voted against this resolution. And yet we're supposed to believe that it's a both sides problem. I'm not saying that the right can't be violent. I mean, nobody's perfect. But let's be real here. The left is way more willing to be violent than the right. And let's talk about censorship. Because the left is claiming that because they're getting fired for praising the death of Charlie Kirk, that is a violation of their free speech, which, as I said on Instagram, free speech has nothing to do with you protecting your job. And the fact that Kimmel was officially canceled, thank God, he wasn't even talented. So the fact that people were making a big deal about this is like, do you not know what humor looks like? Because the guy wasn't funny. But let's take a look at why he was canceled.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from.
Here's everything you need to know about the off-key monologue that got Jimmy Kimmel's show pulled indefinitely. The controversy began during Monday's show when the late-night comic started off by claiming that MAGA was using Charlie Kirk's assassination to score political points. But Kimmel didn't stop there. He went on to call out President Trump, who is scheduled to deliver a speech at Kirk's memorial service on Monday, for what he deemed to be an insufficient reaction to the murder.
In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
Kimmel then doubled down, sharing that it wasn't the first time since Kirk's murder that Trump redirected a question about the Turning Point USA founder back to the White House ballroom.
And it didn't just happen once.
When I heard it, I was in the midst of, building a great, for 150 years, they've wanted a ballroom at the White House, right? They don't have a ballroom. They have to use tents on the lawn for President Xi when he comes over. If it rains, it's a wipeout. And so I was with the architects that would design. It's going to be incredible. And they came in, they said, Charlie Kirk is dead. I didn't know what they meant. I said, he was dead. Charlie Kirk was shot. And they thought he was dead because it was so horrific, And I said, dead.
And then we installed the most beautiful chandelier. Sconces, you wouldn't believe. There's something wrong with them. There really is.
There's something wrong with you.
The backlash to Kimmel's monologue was swift, including from the Federal Communications Commission Chair, Brendan Carr. The President Trump appointee blasted Kimmel's remarks and urged affiliates to preempt his program during an interview with conservative podcaster Benny Johnson. Change needs to happen on Kimmel, Carr said. Nexstar Communications, which operates 23 ABC affiliates, announced it would no longer carry the program due to Kimmel's remarks. Hours later, ABC took Carr's words and Nexstar's actions to heart and canceled the show indefinitely. Sinclair Broadcasting took things even further, announcing that the suspension wasn't enough and vowing to yank Jimmy Kimmel Live from its stations until the host apologizes directly to Charlie Kirk's family
Which he
and
chose not to
donates to
do.
his political activist group. The company also demanded that formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Kimmel's removal has sparked fierce debate, with critics accusing ABC and its parent company Disney of bowing to political pressure, as President Donald Trump cheered the suspension. All this as the dominoes continue to fall and true extent of the fallout has yet to be seen.
All right. The fact that people... God. Okay. Patience. The fact that people they don't see the writing on the walls is just, again, we're living in the same reality, not two different realities here. And I welcome you to live in the same reality we're all living. This one right here. The biggest reason why he was pulled is because he already had bad ratings and this was the last straw. So as any executive would do, that was their literal green light to be like, all right, this is easy. I'm going to just let this guy go. The guy was not producing. Just like Stephen Colbert, these people are not funny. They're not talented. If they don't produce, if they don't make the company money, why are you going to keep them? That's the part that I'm still trying to figure out. And people have like this weird obsession with, oh, it's because of Trump. No, it's not because of Trump. It's because of business. If he does not produce, he should not be working there. That's how that is. In any business in America, like it's like people don't work or something. In any business in America that's private business, and now thankfully government is understanding this concept too, if you do not produce and do your job and perform, you should not have that job. Period. The job is not a right. It's not something you deserve. It's something you earn. And if you're not producing, then you don't earn it. That's how this works. Welcome to capitalism, ladies and gentlemen. That's how this works. So what actually happened was, because he lied on air, and because again, remember, his show is under ABC. ABC is owned by Disney. Disney is owned by a different conglomerate. So because all this, again, is aired through Federal Airways, he lied to the American people. He said that the assassin was one of our own, end quote. So because he said that, which is a lie, they have a right to remove him. Just like every other person who praised Charlie Kirk, the company has a right to remove them. He doesn't have a right to keep his job, especially after lying about that. When it had already been said at that time, the guy was a radical leftist by the governor of Utah. And he did this on CNN and NBC, two liberal leftist media platforms, which very smart for him to have done, by the way. Another thing to note is that when he pulled that stupid stunt, what do you think happened? Not just did the ratings obviously drop, the advertisers didn't want to continue advertising. The sponsors, they were like, yeah, no, I'm cutting. We're not going to be working with you anymore. That's where the money comes from, bro. And at the end of the day, this is a business. They're not doing this because, you know, they love the Democrat Party. They're doing this because they want to make money. Maybe Kimmel loves the Democrat Party, but Disney is trying to make money, especially because Disney's gone so woke that they need to focus on making money. So he didn't even do an apology. So they literally told him to do an apology. He said no. And he doubled down on what he said. So this is not censorship. This is accountability. If you're not going to acknowledge that what you did was wrong in the position that you had, then you don't deserve that position. And to be frank, I don't believe late night shows are dead. What I think is that the company itself needs to stop allowing these like not funny old boomers, no offense to boomers, to be the ones to be in the spotlight and allow actual funny comedians to do it. That's all they need to do, is just change the people who are doing the comedy, and their ratings will skyrocket all over again. And they will attract millennials, they'll attract Gen Z, because at the end of the day, boomers are not immortal, and the future is us. So all they have to do is remove those guys and add actual people that are actually funny. So I want to end it with this comment that I got that really blew me away. And then I'm going to answer one of the questions that was given to me, because now every week I'm going to ask you guys who follow me on Mary_Truths on Instagram to give me a question. And out of all the questions I get, I'm going to pick my favorite and I will answer it on the show on Sunday. I'm going to be doing that every time. So if you want to participate, follow me on Instagram. So let me read this very long-winded comment from somebody who, I'm not going to say their name. I'm not going to call them out. I'm not petty like that, but I'm going to read this out loud. To lower the temperature, starting from the top. Look, transparency means sticking to facts, not jumping to conclusions just because it fits a narrative. Yeah, Utah officials said he leaned left, but that was based on early interviews, yet it was not... I skipped everything. But that was based on early interviews, yet it was not proven motive. Even Cox literally admitted he was hoping it would be an immigrant or a leftist. That's not true, but okay. Which shows bias right there. And Trump called it a leftist before there were even facts out, and it turns out that he was right. Let's see, what else did he say here? That's not transparency, that's spin. Real transparency is waiting for verified info and not turning up the heat. And yeah, unfortunately, we do have a fascist as president. And look at that, I can call him that now because he's actively trying to censor his critics. Also false. Something you gloated to me about with the whole South Park episode. Remember that? This person doesn't understand what the South Park episode was even about because he continues to assume that it had to do with Trump when it had to do with Paramount. And the creators of South Park said that. So again, people are believing propaganda. How could we watch stuff that made fun of him without him censoring them? I'm sure what happened to Colbert and Kimmel were just coincidences, especially since he said that Kimmel is next. He's just prophetic in that way. No, it's just obvious because they're not talented and they suck at comedy. They're extremely partisan and hateful. And people don't need that right now. People need actual comedians that are willing to actually make fun of both sides. That's what we need. Or how about you don't make fun of any side and you just actually crack jokes. But the reason why I wanted to bring out this comment is because people are falling into a narrative that is very high, what is that called? Like the high ground. They want to take the high ground. Which Destiny used this also, which says that this is a rhetoric from the left. Again, propaganda. Because if everybody's using the same rhetoric, it's propaganda. So they're all saying the same thing, including those who lean left. Oh, if you want us to lower the temperature, the president needs to start. No. If you want to lower the temperature, you need to start. Everything starts with you, with me. Individual people. We as people need to lower the temperature. We need, like, people that lean left have to stop calling the administration or people that support the administration fascist. It starts with words. Stop using words that incite violence. This is the same word the assassin used. Are you agreeing with the assassin? I hope not. I really hope not. And I don't believe a lot of leftists who use that word do agree with the assassin and do agree that violence is the answer. I don't believe most leftists who use fascist agree with that. But it doesn't change the fact that you're using the same term the killer used. So if you don't agree with the killer, stop using the word. Stop using words that will incite more violence. Start with you. Stop saying Donald Trump, Donald Trump. It's you. Everything starts with you. It's like Michael Jackson said, if you want to make the world a better place, look at yourself and make the change. And that's 100% like, yes, that's exactly what we need to do right now. It's look in the mirror and what is it that we have to change about ourselves? Stop looking at other people and stop judging other people. Oh, they got to do this, they got to do that. No. What do we have to do to change? Because if we don't, then we're never going to actually have a kumbaya moment. It's not going to happen. So people that are calling for to continue saying fascism have to stop saying fascism. That needs to stop. You need to end it. If you really believe in peace, you would stop using that type of language. Start there. That's all I got to say about that. And to answer my favorite question that I was asked by somebody this week is, what is MBE? And I'm glad somebody asked that question because I've been talking about MBE for how many lives has it been already? 55 lives. So I'm going to keep it really short because I'm going to end it here. MBE is a mindset. It is a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of acting. It is knowing that in order for us to be self-aware of ourselves and our surroundings, we need to elevate our life. How do we do that? By connecting the mind and body together. The mind and body are not separate. They coincide in one vehicle. So because they are connected, we need to actually connect them. And the way to do that is through meditation, through exercising, through sleeping, drinking water, stretching, eating correctly, and praying. We believe that believing in a higher power is one of the most important things to the MBE mindset because it grounds us to this reality. And as MBE continues to grow and flourish, then it will probably evolve and it will change. And that's the whole point of it. Because at the end of the day, it's a mindset. And a mindset is meant to evolve. It's not meant to stay stagnant. We are meant to evolve. So with that said, if you believe in evolution, if you believe in truth, if you believe in God, if you believe in the United States of America, follow me, be a truth seeker, and I will see you guys next time.